So welcome along, guys. Thank you so much for joining us here, and we're excited to have Thrillseeker with us this week. So this is the AIXR and VRAwards, with it's a weekly winners AMA series. Hopefully you guys have seen some of the other events. My name is Chris Gunby. I work at AIXR with the organization behind the VRAwards. And yeah, like I said, we're here today with Thrillseeker, who for the second year running was our VR social influencer of the year. And we're really excited that he's decided to come in and join us today for another one of these AMA sessions to answer your guys' questions. So I think we've got a bit of a video as well as an introduction, but Thrill, just in case for some reason there's anyone here who doesn't know you, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself and then we'll run through your video too?
Yeah, for sure. Hi, I'm Thrill. I'm host and creator of the YouTube channel Thrillseeker. And I basically cover the AR, VR, XR industry weekly, sometimes multiple times a week, and stream and do all that sorts of stuff. So, yeah.
All right, nice one. And I guess roll tape. See if we get through the whole video.
April 21st, 2019, I published the very first video to this channel. VR's come a long way, and there's never been a better time to join it.
Tuesday! Now
It's time for your number one resource for the entire week's worth 7 categories of VR user. Almost nil.
You have to try this. I sound crazy.
Over the past 5 years of me practically dedicating my life to VR, I have tried literally dozens of VR headsets, ranging from $10 to $8,000. Some were good and some were terrible, but only once have I ever put on a headset and been completely speechless. And that was the first time I put on a VR headset, until I put on this headset that we're talking about today, the VRA AXR3. And it's honestly so good that I'm kind of mad about it, because I'm about to rip out a kidney just so I could afford one. Plus, this thing's just pretty.
All right.
Yeah, just a little fun highlight reel of, I guess, my most popular videos for the past year.
Love that. And what a headset that VRA is as well. But yeah, so if anybody for some reason isn't subscribed, we'll give you a quick break. You can jump in and go subscribe to that channel too. But yeah, there's a quick highlight and snippet of some of the Thrill social content and a quick insight into why he won Social Influencer of the Year. Like I said, for the second year in a row, this award's been going for 2 years now, and both times it's been won by Thrill. So really awesome. Just a quick heads up on how this will work today. We've got a couple of questions. I've got some questions. We've got some questions of our community, but the main thing really is that you guys here can ask some of your questions to Thrill about him, what he does, his content, his work, the award, however you want to ask those things too. So in the bottom right of your screen, you should see a little raise hand option. Feel free to pop that up. And we'll get around to those questions and make sure we see you. If we don't come to you straight away, don't worry, we'll get around to you. But Thrill, I just don't know if you want to just kick off really quickly and just let us know, what you won this last year. Like we said, we were here a year ago, chatting about the award and things like that. A lot's changed though for you, right, in that time, and you've started a new company and those sorts of things. Why don't you give everyone a quick heads up about what's been going on in your world in the last 12 months?
Yeah, for sure. So really, it's been kind of a crazy year, really 2 years. The first year that I started my channel, it was just pretty much grinding. We're balancing my day job with YouTube, and then within that first year, I ended up doing YouTube full time, which was a terrible idea, like financially and in terms of like in every way possible. It was a terrible idea, but it ended up working out. But really, it was just hyper focusing on making VR content and like really looking into what's happening in the industry at every moment. And then after that first year, it kind of just really sped up. I did a few moves to different places. I currently now live in Miami, which is probably one of the bigger things because I'm actually doing this AMA out of a like an office, like a studio that I now use to make content out of. Which the last AMA was out of I believe like an apartment that I was working out of, so it's definitely
been. You were traveling. I think
I was actually I was traveling at that time, but if I was home, I would have been in my apartment. So yeah, so it's been really crazy, really just trying to scale up and do as much as I possibly can with the time I have it, while YouTube content is relevant, and while my YouTube content is relevant. And one of the big things is I started a company, Thrillseeker Media Group, definitely taking some cues off of Linus Media Group for sure. But really just to have a whole crew that makes making videos and content regarding VR and XR more efficient, and just being able to do more with less time, essentially. But yeah.
Awesome. I'm sure we'll hear plenty more about that as we go into this as well. And I see we've got a couple of sort of people ready to ask some questions already. But yeah, one thing I'd just love to quickly get your thought on as well before we dive into already some audience questions, which is awesome. Please, yeah, pop your hands up if you've got anything there. Yeah, what was been interesting for you in terms of, as I see you started that group and those sorts of things, how have you seen generally this world of VR social influencers or the content creators? We saw some great people nominated for the award and all that sort of stuff too. And that community, how's that grown over the last year?
Yeah, it's been really awesome watching more and more people start to create VR content. And also I think whenever I started, it was, I mean, even to this day, my channel is very much so of a variety VR channel or XR channel. I just cover anything within the broad category. It could be funny, or it could be very serious, or it could be like very industry focused. And it's really cool watching a lot of new content creators spur up entirely new niches of VR content. Like there are people making entire careers out of actual gorilla tag content. Like that's somebody's entire career. So it's been really amazing watching these new niches start up within VR, because that kind of wasn't possible before. I wasn't able to just be a Pavlov YouTuber. That might have worked for like a little bit, but the things that are popular are getting popular enough that you have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people watching all sorts of varieties of VR content. So it's been amazing watching content creators grow and also the viewership grow for those niches. One thing that I've seen too is everybody's content is getting so good. Like just look at like Mike VRO or Fia from the virtual reality show. I know that Fia was one of the nominees this year. Everybody's just leveling up, and it's made their audience to the content that they're making and the topics that they're doing. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen for content creators and content creation over the next 2 years, 3 years, because really all it takes is somebody with a really great vision and a really a lot of drive and determination, of course, and they just rise to the top, and they have they build their own audience out of thin air. So I'm really excited to see what's going to happen over the next couple of years. One more thing quickly is that it's interesting watching in terms of not just my content and viewership, but everybody's the ups and downs of VR, because it's kind of the content creation and like the YouTube scene, I feel like is in a weird way like a pulse on the VR, where consumer VR is right now. The more you see like VR YouTube content popping off and going crazy, it's probably a pretty safe bet that like that month is just a good month for VR. And then you see the few months where it's like, yeah, we haven't had an announcement for a while. There's no new headsets, no new games. And then it all kind of lulls. And then as soon as a new game's announced or hardware interest is peaked again, then, we're all riding high again. So it's been a very interesting thing going through the waves and the flow of the up and down.
Yeah. It's good to see that you mentioned some of the other creators there, the community with that. It was really nice to see when this was announced, the creators almost more excited about who else was on the list rather than themselves, and it's a really nice community, it feels. So
certainly.
That's great. Amazing.
We've
got a few questions already. Like I said, Danny has been waiting very patiently, I think, since the start. So we'll dive in with some audience questions right away then. So Danny Coy, you should have the megaphone now if you want to fire away with a question for Thrill.
Thank you. Yeah. So a little bit of background. I'm in the VR education space, and we've noted that ever since Meta's announcement during the Connect presentation last year that they were going to be specifically designating funding for VR and education, meanwhile, we have lots of teachers and professors who have issues with the way that Meta has been structuring their operating system, like no parental control features, no way to restrict access to the integrated Facebook account when inside the headset. What are your thoughts on the discrepancy between Meta's spoken promise about being dedicated to education VR and the way that they're actually structuring their operating system?
Right. No, that's definitely pretty interesting. I thought about this a lot, not just for education, but for all sorts of use cases. I can't imagine a Fortune 500 company utilizing VR, really wanting to have their entire VR section of their workspace be, you know, like directly involved with Facebook or Meta in any way. Not just because it's Facebook or Meta, like whatever. If it's a good operating system and it works. But because it's odd. I don't know. I find it odd. It's not like using a Microsoft account for something, you know, in other words. And so I think that, this is something that has been sort of addressed. It was sort of addressed during Connect last year, how, especially for enterprise, they're wanting to have entirely different enterprise accounts or entirely different segment of Quest usability or headset usability for enterprise. And I think that's something that we'll see in the future because they're going to have some pretty stiff competition in the enterprise segment coming up pretty soon. So, and that's also, I put enterprise and education kind of similarly because I think that a lot of these systems will be carried over in a similar vein as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a problem that will definitely become easier, either that or competition will make it easier.
Yeah, we can only hope that competition kind of
right.
helps in that. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. Thanks, Danny. Yeah, really interesting question to kick things off. JD, you've got a question for us. Let me pass you the mic.
Thank you very much. Big fan. Keep up the good work. Where do you see yourself with the future accessibility on VR and the leaps and bounds that we're taking towards portability? Where do you see, if you keep that in mind, where do you see yourself a year from now?
Keep that. Okay, so I'm going to tangent a little bit about the portability and sort of the things I'm excited about. This will answer your question, I believe. Before I get to where I'm going to be. So the biggest thing that I'm excited about right now in the whole industry is this convergence of, you know, this AR technology that we all dream of that just doesn't exist right now, at least not in any feasible way or affordable way. And then where we have VR. And so VR is this amazing thing that has so much potential. AR is this amazing thing, but right now we're in this convergence state where it's all mixed reality. That's where I think that the industry is headed hardcore in the next 2 to 5 years. But the great thing is packaged along with every mixed reality device you have a cutting edge VR device. And so this is like a dual factor thing where you have a really capable mixed reality or augmented reality device and VR device all in the same. You're going to have a lot more people developing for VR, but then also this is kickstarting the whole augmented reality development cycle early before true AR devices are truly ready. And so this is where I see things coming very, very quickly. And where I see myself in the next year is I'm really, really wanting to show the potentials of mixed reality. My socks were blown off whenever I tried out the VRA AXR 3 because that has definitely the leading mixed reality in the market right now. It's incredible. And I saw the potentials of it, and I see how much it's going to change the whole industry moving forward, how it's that's kind of the really exciting thing for me. And so my content is, in terms of how I'm viewing things, I'm planning on mixed reality being a pretty big essential for any sort of mass consumer device within the next year or two. And that's something that I'm planning on making a mainstay, is mixed reality content.
Me too.
Yeah, for sure.
100 on that one. Thank you for giving me the privilege to ask the question. And keep
definitely.
Cool. Thanks, Shay. Appreciate it. Yeah, and I guess kind of with the building on that, or going back a little, maybe you mentioned about obviously you've got the company now, you've got this sort of plans for content in the future, where you hope it will go. You mentioned you're in an office. Do you want to just give us a bit more info about the Thrillseeker Media Group? I know you said sort of a bit more online and enabled you to grow out that. What are the kind of activities you guys are doing now that goes beyond you individually as a YouTuber and with the sort of awesome team you've assembled?
Right, totally. So I realized kind of the hard way how much I was doing for a while, especially the right before TMG, or like whenever I first started TMG. And in case you guys don't know, I started a company, Thrillseeker Media Group, and I went for a public crowdfunding raise. And it's sort of like Kickstarter, except for you get shares instead of like a promise of a video, you know? So, and that campaign's still live right now for about the next week. And whenever I first started the company, I realized how much I was doing, because I was the sole writer, the sole editor, the sole videographer, and I was also managing, you know, my Discord server and community, but then also my Twitch streams, and then also any incoming and outgoing business. And it was just, it's a lot. You know, it's you know, you get through all the community management and through all of the other content creation and everything else that you have to do. And there's my arm. Okay.
Whoa.
There we go. It's back. you get through all of the other things that you have to do to just maintain, and then you still have to make the content. Otherwise, like, you know, all that maintaining didn't really do anything. And so this company was to solve one big problem, which I'll get to in a second, but that I noticed as a content creator, but also to bring on fellow editors and eventually bring on writers, and then expand what I do. Given the expertise that I've learned, just kind of super organically. I wouldn't call myself an expert. I don't think there's like very few experts in anything, and I definitely don't call myself that. But I have some weird experience in the VR industry that not that many people have the pleasure of doing, and that's like working with small indie developers or large developers, and then working with a lot of small projects, open source or not, and then working with hardware developers, and also the unique perspective of very in depth. So all of these things combined together, and really, I started TMG, like I said, to scale up my video operations, but also the bigger thing was to hopefully connect my fellow content creators with those developers and with the hardware manufacturers and with these open source projects, to connect their audiences with the cool stuff to where everybody wins at the end. The people, you know, the consumers in my audience and their audiences all get cool videos and then, you know, cool products. It's like as organic of advertising as you could possibly get. They get the cool videos and cool products. The developers of hardware, software get to sell their stuff to a targeted demographic. And then the people that are making the videos get to make cool videos and have their viewership increase. So really just trying to connect everybody the best way possible, which is why part of TMG is essentially an agency for other content creators to join, which I'm really excited to open up pretty soon here. We have our first big spend coming up. And that initially came up to me because I've gotten the opportunity to work very closely with XLab, a VR game studio, and then with other studios as well. They don't traditionally have a lot of money to spend on marketing. It's so hard in the VR space. There are a lot of really good VR games that sell 5 copies, and that's because it's just not targeted correctly. It makes no sense posting an advertisement for your game in the traditional way that you would sell a game. It's almost like trying to sell, a car to people that don't have a driver's license. If you don't have a VR headset, then like, why are you marketing this game to me? So yeah, that's a huge thing that I'm trying to do is make things more profitable for everybody, and then get the good games in the people's hands, because they just won't see it. They just don't know about them. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's a great mission, and it seems like you're really on the good path to doing that. And so maybe then if you've got a tip or trick for those people that are 2 years ago where you were, and maybe starting out or quitting their jobs or creating content, or maybe not quitting their jobs, I don't know, what would you say, apart from keeping an eye out for your obviously your content creators agency, maybe having a look at that, what's maybe a tip that you'd have for people making content in this space right now?
Yeah, the biggest thing, which I don't really know how I did it in the past, the biggest thing is just like legitimately never give up. Like you're gonna have good videos, you're gonna have bad videos, you're gonna have videos that go in the middle. People are gonna be happy with your videos. Like, uh, never rest on your laurels. If you post a video and it does really well, like okay, like digest what did well about it and then move on. Like don't sit on it. Don't be like, okay, you know, I'm good now. I don't have to post for a month. Like that's not the way that this goes. If you have a bad video, then like that shouldn't serve as thought to yourself, like, oh, why am I even doing this? This isn't worth it. Like nobody's watching this stuff. Because just improving your craft of editing or writing or videography, or it could be game design, it could be anything, any sort of creative field or technical field. Just never give up on it. Like push through the good, push through the bad, and then like level it out, because it'll eventually pull out for you, I promise.
Awesome, that's great. Well, speaking of sticking with it and not giving up, Neutral Halo, you've been really patiently waiting for to ask a question, so please take it away.
I was kind of wondering if you saw VR as becoming a more less of a niche thing and more of a pretty much everyone in the world does this. Or do you see it as becoming either a niche thing that stays niche, kind of like gaming, or become a class thing because only the social higher ups have VR or something like that?
Yeah, and so I kind of see this weird my whole idea about where VR is going to go kind of flip-flops depending on what moves are made in the industry. Gaming is just the easiest way to push VR right now. Like it's a clear-cut thing to make. It's a clear-cut thing to do, and you know it's like it's already built upon this already massive gaming industry. VR is special because it's not the gaming industry. It's also not a display technology industry. It's not any of these things. It's kind of its own new thing. And I think VR will be niche for a while. And by niche, I don't mean that in any derogatory or mean way. It's more like some people will be very interested in the idea of VR, and some people will be less interested or disinterested even. And I think as we see mainly companies utilizing it kind of forcefully, I think that's where we're going to see a really big explosion in people using VR for working or whatever. But here's like my big thing. I actually don't use VR to work within, and I don't think I will until VR offers something that I can't do on my monitor. And I like my monitor a lot. I have it very specifically picked. It's an ultra wide monitor. It works great for editing. But until VR does something better than that, I'm not going to use it. And I think that's something that resonates with a lot of people. Why would I put on a VR headset? It's inherently uncomfortable. It's on my face. It removes the whole world around me. Why would I replace something like this whenever it just does the same thing? So I think that as people are able to work efficiently or do things other than just entertainment in VR, it's going to massively blow up. But as new entertainment mediums explode as well, I see VR also taking off. But it's like, what are you going to get first? Are you going to have people working in VR to where that's the explosion, where millions and millions of people are kind of forced to use it? Or it's, you're handicapping yourself if you're not? Or are we going to have entertainment become so great in VR that people choose to be in VR rather than other traditional forms of entertainment? So I'm not really sure. I do see a future in terms of the class divide. I do see a very strong future where VR headsets are extremely cheap, where everybody has a VR headset, similar to how everybody has a phone. There are many people that walk around, they don't have a roof over their head, but they have $1,000 phone, because a phone is something that you're meant to, you kind of have to operate with a phone nowadays, and it's very cheap to do so. And I see something very similar happening in the far future. I think that we're going to have some sort of class divide in VR for the time being, but it all depends on how the industry takes off.
Cool.
Thank you.
Excellent. Great question. Sorry, Halo, we had to mute you for a second just because we were getting some feedback. So, but all good answer? Nice one. Great. Perfect. So for just a reminder for everyone else, if you have questions of yourself or other questions for there, please pop your hand up and we can get through to those. One thing I wanted to touch on real quick is the award, right? For those who don't know, is a bit of background. The shortlist for social influencer is made up of AIXR's media partners, the judging panel, and they nominate people towards this shortlist. And then for the actual award itself, there's quite a heavy public voting element of that. And I guess as you'd expect from social influencer, your community's grown massively. I think when we were here last year, you had just broken the 300,000 subscriber mark, and then now you're over the 500,000 with the company, that sort of stuff. How you mentioned community management as a big task too. How's that community grown for you? How has that influenced the sort of work and content you're putting out?
Yeah. So the award basically, it did. I don't think it got me anything in particular, like very directly. It was a lot of indirect things that I think having the VRAwards actually winning that, especially once or twice, it doesn't matter, or even being on the short list, it was pretty monumental in the background to helping me accomplish the things I'm doing. It's kind of odd, especially in the VR space, because not a lot of publications write about you. Not really a lot of people even care. And even sending somebody a video that has 1 million views, it doesn't really mean much. But having companies that are pushing the edge in VR, being sort of what's the right term for it? Like, it put me on a higher pedestal, I guess, than just a typical YouTuber or blogger or something like that, right? I was seen as someone that could offer something to the VR industry, I guess. And I do got to say, in terms of this forming the company, it was actually monumental because investors a lot of times don't understand YouTube or even media, right? It's kind of an odd thing to even start a company and seek investors for, but to be recognized by the industry was amazing. And it also allowed my community something, or it gave my community something to stand behind as well. So really, I think in the background, especially with working with companies like Vario and Tesla Suit in the future, and a lot of these other companies, and going to CES and getting press passes, it was absolutely monumental. Because it's hard to, especially in terms of getting taken seriously, it's really hard whenever you just have YouTube, backing you up. So I also want to say I really appreciate and love that AIXR does this as well. It really helps everything.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean that's great to hear. That's why we do it. So that's perfect.
Definitely.
Thank you, and I'm glad we hear. Interestingly, we hear a bunch from our members and organizations that they would like more access to influencers and people and content creators. So clearly, there's more work to be done there, but we'll get on that. Awesome. Danny has another question. Fire away, Danny.
Yeah. Gonna pull previous video essays, but I wanted to see if you had any new opinions about how Meta is kind of pitching the metaverse to general audiences, whereas VR chat has been doing everything that Facebook Horizons has been doing since 2016. And just see if you had any new thoughts and had since those videos.
Right. So I've kind of come in a weird way, like full circle with that. I've obviously thought about it a lot. I've done quite a few video essays. I've had streams where I talk about it, and I've had also personal conversation with people ranging from community members to friends and all other content creators, and then people up in the industry about this very topic. And I think something that I've kind of rested upon is just as much as Meta was kind of what's the right, they were pushing their idea of the metaverse on people. I feel like I in a way I kind of was as well. Because I felt so strongly that this is something that we build, this is something that we do, this is we've been doing this in VR, creating together and going to events and expressing ourselves for so long. If what people choose is whatever they use, right? So in like a weird way to put it.
Yeah.
And so I still feel very strongly about the power of expression in VR and my original vision of like the metaverse and how VR chat is probably the closest thing to it that we have right now. But whatever, I'm more of a fan of the best product or the best thing that we can possibly use. And my idea of the metaverse has also expanded greatly with thoughts of augmented reality and mixed reality, and then obviously virtual reality as well. And really, I guess the best way to put it is I'm just watching. I'm watching as much as I possibly can, taking in as much as I possibly can, because there's so much that can possibly happen. The only thing that I really care for is people to be free to do what they want within the metaverse, or at least to like be aware of what is happening behind the scenes to some extent. And so if Meta created this amazing open platform that promotes creativity and expression and a safe environment for people, if that was something that they did, then I wouldn't be against it just because it's Meta. What I'm trying to say. I'm just pushing for the best product possible that allows people to do the best things. I don't really care who it's by. It's as long as it's morally sound. In and out. It has to be in and out morally sound. So yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. Digo, you've been waiting for a question. Thank you so much. Yeah, floor is yours.
Oh, I am very sorry. I think I ran by accident. I do have a question now that you talk about it.
Sure.
Take the opportunity. Go for it. Yeah.
So, in the sense, I think talk about pushing the best thing there is for expression, or the best thing that is available right now. I think the competition that maybe new headsets like the from Pico Neo,
Right.
like coming from another company that is very related to social media.
Right.
Does it like it almost seems like the space only makes sense to really push if we have like the goal to really control people's social lives and social interactions in a very fine way. Like Meta really has an interest in that, and maybe ByteDance probably also does. This is just like, do you see like this is the only way forward for VR? For it being pushed by companies who only have an interest in finally controlling people's social lives somehow.
Right. And so I've also thought about the idea quite a bit, where like an alternate universe where Facebook didn't buy Oculus, or where what would have happened? Would VR, where would VR be right now? And I think it would be, it would obviously still exist, but it would be a far different landscape as to what we see it now. I think it would be a lot slower, organic growing. We think of VR as niche now, but it has millions of daily users. It would be a very hardcore, actually niche crowd, very, very small. But it would be very organic growth that would have these questions kind of detached from it. There's no coincidence that ByteDance and now Amazon and Google and Facebook or Meta are the ones that are most interested in VR. There's no coincidence. It's the next level of being social, essentially. And so it's hard for me to really imagine a world right now where a company comes in and competes directly with someone like Meta without all of those strings attached and is able to actually compete. Because the problem is that most other hardware manufacturers don't have the means to even make that happen, or to have their voice heard, or to produce a product that is sold at a loss, or to fund the giant libraries that are needed to actually push hardware. And so until we reach some next level where you have a lot of different manufacturers all competing for the same thing, I don't think until we reach that, you're going to have all of these other questions kind of actually be the prominent thing, where it's like, okay, is this social engineering essentially, right? That's like a big question, is how far is this going to go whenever everybody has their face stuffed into VR and social VR? And really, like right now, the only people really pushing for mass consumer VR are social media companies. And that's because they have the most to gain right now. Whenever we have a lot of people in the industry, then things might be a little bit differently, or might be a little bit different, and there might be more conversation about, okay, well, I like this company because their main standhold is privacy, or knowing where my data goes exactly. And then that might be something people are really interested in, but that's just kind of impossible right now given the climate. I'm talking about for selling 10 million units in a year, but we'll have to see. I'm looking into these things very, very closely, and believe me, I would push something as far as I possibly could if I knew that there's a project like that.
Kind of like the chicken and egg argument you had with the legs video you did recently, right? The market kind of needs to establish before people kind of want to get into it, and then more people get into it, and that snowball effect, but that has to happen first. So
totally, yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, and it's just generating higher levels of competition, because like if you have 10 different companies offering very similar devices that do similar things, at that point, it's which company do you like best, and which company do you subscribe to their morals or amorality or whatever it is that they do that you like. And so that's sort of where I see that going, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Nice one. Thank you for that. And thanks for the question. Tokisaran, you've got a question. Thank you for waiting for that. You should have mic. Nope. Still in the room? Toki, you? Nope. All right. Might have lost them. Okay, well, anyone else that has questions, please feel free to raise your hand. And yeah, Sarah, if you had a question there, we weren't able to connect you, maybe re-raise your hand, we'll come back to you on there. But while we wait for other questions to come in there, another quick one then, you mentioned about some of the awesome things you managed to try over the last year or so, and some of the ones that are sort of going under the radar as well, those sorts of things. So why don't you tell us about nominations for the awards open on Monday again for this year? What's the coolest thing you've seen over the last 12 months or so that you'd like to shout out, whether it's a game or a headset or whatever? What's the coolest thing you've tried?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the most exciting projects that I have on my radar is the Lynx R1. That headset, I actually haven't had a chance to try it yet, but it looks to be really amazing. And Stan LaRoque, the creator of Lynx R1, has this really great idea where he's selling these headsets at a pretty decent consumer rate. I think he dropped the price all the way down from like $1,500 down to around $500 or $600. And it's a flip up mixed reality VR headset with a really interesting prism lens design, running an XR2 and everything you could possibly imagine. And it's very clearly, it looks awesome. I'm very excited about it. I'm just curious to see what happens whenever people actually get their hands on it.
Yeah, I saw a picture of the booth for Lynx at Laval Virtual, which is a big VR event in France last week, I think. And there was just crowds of people, like 5-6 deep, just trying to get to the booth to have a look at this thing. So
yeah, cool. Crazy line for it. And so I'm planning on attending AWE this year, or AWE this year. So I'm hoping to finally get my hands on one to test out. There's also, I mean, I know it sounds odd, but I'm actually really looking forward to whatever the Cambria is. Because like I said, I'm pushing really hardcore for these mixed reality features. And I can't wait to see. I've only tried really tech demos and industry demos of mixed reality, which are awesome, but I want to see actual application, and I'm really pumped to see that actually happen in a usable way. In terms of software, obviously, I'm really looking forward to Bone Lab. I've made it pretty clear in the past that I'm a big Boneworks system fan and Stress Level Zero fan. So looking forward to Bone Lab. That was just announced properly yesterday. Yeah, so Bone Lab, Cambria, Lynx R1. There's also a secret project that should be announced this summer that I'm really pumped for as a hopeful PCVR replacement. So hopefully that's announced on time.
Very cool. We'll keep our eyes open for that one. Nice
Definitely.
one. Cool. Thank you, Sarah. Maybe my host panel playing up. I hope you've got the mic now and you can go again.
Yes. Hello. So I have a question. Well, kind of like a question and something to say about what you were talking about before with like how the metaverse, like people working in it and all that. Well, somebody that also has anxiety and stuff, mostly talking to people in person and stuff like that, like I find very useful because like it's hard to talk to people in person, but also like using platforms like this and being in front of people and talking is more comfortable than actually talking in person, which I think is probably my favorite part of VR experience and everything, is because you're physically in a different body, but of course you're like, if I'm talking to this person right here, I feel more secure in VR than I do talking to them in real life, having to stare in their eyes, which I kind of go for with the VR experience. But I was like wondering, like, you're more part on that with the work and stuff. And I've seen people working like in high fidelity. I think that's what it was called. High fidelity. Like they actually had like people working the front desk. When people would go up to them in the front desk, they would like read their things and they would help you with everything that was in the world in that platform.
Right.
And I think that it's very like awesome.
No, definitely. And so that's actually where I spend the majority of my VR time, is in social VR. And so I love seeing people that normally have a lot of social anxiety or a lot of issues going to venues or places really open up their social blossom and butterfly whenever you get them in VR, and especially in an avatar or place where they feel really comfortable in. I strongly identify, I take a lot of care with changing up my avatars to exactly what I like with different outfits and stuff like that. Like I go kind of crazy with it. And that's because it makes me feel really comfortable and feel great in a VR space. There's like two sides of me. I'm both like pretty, in some ways, antisocial, and then also a social butterfly at the same time. But VR cuts my like antisocial side in half, to where I'm far more often to be really outgoing. And so I can imagine there's another huge benefit to working in VR than just that, but I can imagine that being massively benefiting for a lot of people. But then also being able to work in a similar space in virtual reality from anywhere in the world, which if you've ever tried to like bring talent in to anywhere for any sort of job, bringing in the talent's the hardest part. Like, you know, like especially if you're trying to hire locally or something like that, it's almost impossible. Just trying to find people that are really interested in VR, that care about it to the level that I do, that like to edit or shoot video, is extremely hard. But as soon as I expand that reach global or within the whole United States or North America, it's totally different. So being able to have some sort of workspace for people globally is amazing. It can lead to projects that were probably impossible before. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of working within VR. In terms of actually like working though, that's where I do want some sort of added benefit other than just the social features of VR. There's no way right now that I would go and edit a full video using my index, for example, as my screen or viewer. But yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I kind of find the whole working thing in VR as a kind of a cool concept, but like maybe if it was more like, oh, you have to hold a camera to like, like, oh, I'm filming you guys, do your presentation,
Right.
and I'm gonna edit it later, but like, have some like, I don't know. I like role play, but at the same time, I like more of an interactive thing too. But it would be
For
cool
sure.
to have it in VR.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so there's a lot of very legitimate, real like entertainment in play in VR. Like I've been hosting large scale, for lack of better words, but like raves or big parties with like live DJs and stuff in VR, and we're able to emulate and make those experiences possibly even better than what they would be in physical reality. So why not do the same for work as well? Make it a more entertaining and fun thing to do in general. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like I was in the don't know what her name is. She's the talk show host, but like so even stuff like that is interesting.
Right.
Yeah, there's loads of cool potential. That's awesome, and thank you so much for the questions and the comments. And I know we see it more and more now. One of the award finalists, just a very quick anecdote, and then we'll get to the other questions a winner from 2 years ago made the virtual market in VR chat. I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh yeah,
and
of course.
Them as a large company and a large organization, I don't think any of them have ever, from what they were telling me, have met in real life, and they only know each other's VR chat names. But they managed to run this
That's
company
amazing.
and run that whole. But yeah, super cool. Maybe that's the future.
It's had a massive funding round as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're doing some really awesome things. We've got about 10 minutes left and quite a few questions to sort of run through. So if you have a question, fire away, and we might sort of speed through some of the answers. So hopefully we'll get to everybody. Silver Cylon, I know you've been waiting for a while. Go ahead.
A couple of thoughts ran through my mind. As far as working in VR, I could imagine, might we ever see something like Blender adapted to the VR environment where you could create at that level of complexity. And of course, Blender is a really deep program. But it looks to me like parts of Blender's operations would be really nice if they could happen in VR.
Oh, for certain.
Any initiatives that might exist about doing that?
So I'm not entirely sure about what's going on currently, but I totally see exactly what you're talking about. It's odd that we just kind of are so used to now as like humans working with computers that our interfaces with making these digital worlds is a keyboard and mouse most of the time, or a tablet, for example. Whenever like we have two hands that can sculpt things and do all sorts of a totally different way of creating 3D models or working within Blender, or like I imagine working with a timeline in a video. There are so many ways that using some sort of hand tracking or other ways to interact with a computer, it would make so much more sense than using our normal inputs of keyboard and mouse. But Blender is a great piece of software with awesome plugins and free plugins, and I mean a lot of open source stuff as well. So I can imagine there's probably something out there. I'm just not totally aware of it.
Speaking of
I'd say, quick note, go check out. Sorry, just to say very quickly, go check out as well after you've seen this. There's an AMA we did with the winners of the Enterprise of the Year award that's on YouTube, and they are working on collaborative 3D modeling over 5G using VR. It's a really cool.
Oh, it's amazing.
So maybe have a look at that.
Well, the only other thing I wondered about, then I'll get out, is do you think that Steam tracking can continue to be viable and relevant? I know there's a lot of efforts at trying to get away from base stations, but Steam tracking, when set up properly, works so phenomenally well. And
for sure.
The other systems just don't measure up.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm worried these lesser systems might take over anyways.
Yeah, and so base station tracking is odd to me because I still use laser tracking for almost every day. Like I mostly use a Valve Index with Vive trackers and and Knuckles. And so I see a weird schism, smaller niche that consistently uses laser tracking, and they're going to use laser tracking until it's dead. There will be a day eventually where some other technology is legitimately better than laser tracking. I think that camera-based tracking has the potential to get there eventually. But until it is, laser tracking will still be prevalent and still be used and useful, because right now there's no other way to have super cheap, accurate full body tracking, right? It doesn't exist. And laser tracking is a great way to do it. It's just, as we know it, too expensive. I think if Valve did something like open source their base station design and allow their reference design to be copied by other people, then we'd have far cheaper laser tracking available. But I don't see that happening anytime super soon. I wish it did happen or allowed people to license their technology at the very least without exorbitant costs. But camera tracking is just so cheap. It's cameras and then software, very cheap cameras as well. We're talking like 30-cent cameras. So I use laser tracking. I don't want it to go anywhere, and I don't see it going anywhere for the next few years. But I'm pretty confident that it will be replaced by something, and it'll be replaced by something that's more user-friendly eventually. Sadly, or maybe not sadly, if it's better, I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for those questions. Cheers. Starletto, why don't you let us know what you've got on your mind?
So, can you hear me?
Yep, all good.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Brazilian here in Rio. VR is not so popular, and I'm wanting to create a channel to talk about VR, to be part of this growing community. I wanted to ask, what are the main problems that you went through being a YouTuber in the early stages of a growing community? Because I think if I want to get through this, I will need to pass through some of these problems as well.
Right. So, to be honest, whenever I first made my channel, probably for the first like year and a half, I was totally almost blinded by like my extreme enthusiasm for VR. Like I was, which this is it's kind of weird to think about now, but I was in full belief that it could be any month or any hardware release or any game that just pushes VR over the edge. And, within 6 months, there'll be a massive blow up. And, maybe I thought I might help with that. And so I just acted like VR was one step away from being super mainstream adopted. Like I acted like I was one step away at all times. There was never a moment where I was like, oh yeah, VR is just going to be this niche thing that a few people are going to use and enjoy. Like, no, it's like I saw the potential. I saw what I wanted it to do. I saw all the enjoyment that I had in it. And I saw all the enjoyment that everybody else around me had in it. And I was just honestly really blinded by that. And I think that's a good thing. So just I don't know, if you present it like it's super official and like it's here, then people really get on board with that and it becomes more official to them and they believe that it's here too. And if everybody believes that it's here, then it's here. I don't know if that's a weird way to put it, but.
No, appreciate it. Thank you very much. H Penny, how's your mic coming?
I think I got it fixed this time.
There we go.
You can hear me fine? There we go. All right. I only got here like 20 minutes ago, so you might have already answered something like this already, but shut up. No. But I know you like recently before and whatnot, you've heavily like recommended like the Valve Index and stuff. But there's been, and I've been looking into that like myself because I wanted like something new more recently. But there's been a lot of like talk and like leaks and whatnot about maybe like new headsets and stuff, even like new like Valve headsets and stuff. So would you think it would be better to just buy in now or just wait?
Yeah, and so this is actually something that I've struggled with a bit because there there's this like weird cycle of leaks and then patents and all these things where, especially like regarding Valve stuff, we know a lot of companies are working on a lot of things, and it's hard for me to like straight up recommend to buy a Valve Index now that it's almost 3 years old, and there's probably going to be something better within the next 6 months to a year. Probably within the next 6 months to a year. But the thing is, I still use an index daily, and I have lots of headsets lying around, and so I know that regardless of what comes out, it's still a really good headset, and it's still my choice as like a daily driver, especially if I'm connected to my PC, which I'm usually by my PC. And so in terms of like me like directly recommending an index, I still use it for my use case, which I use a lot of full body tracking. I play a lot of Steam VR games. Most of my stuff is all in Steam VR and or like VR chat, for example. The index just fits what I do perfectly. And I don't know, I still honestly don't know within the next year if another headset will fit that as well as the index does. If something else does, then like, sweet, that would be amazing. But right now, this is just the best headset for me. And I don't see that changing unless a few big headsets, unless I get totally shocked, or if there's another project that's probably like within the next 6 months that I'm really excited for, but that's also out of the price range of the index as well. So for somebody that just likes VR, if you're in VR chat a lot or you like full body tracking, then yeah, I would say that it's a pretty safe bet for the next year. I also have a thing like these headsets are only relevant for so long. And so waiting 6 months or a year or 2 or 2 years or 3 years to buy something kind of doesn't make sense in the VR space, because technology does move pretty fast, and you could just be having more experiences with that technology rather than waiting for it and not using that tech, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, I get you there.
Right. It's like people asking if you should still buy a Quest 2 even though something's coming out. I'm like, well, I don't see the value going down anytime soon, and like you're just losing out on time that you could be in VR. So, right.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah, everyone dive in. Great. I appreciate. I think a couple of people might still have questions and that sort of stuff. That's all the time we had sort of set aside today. We've gone slightly over, but I mean, Thrill, I don't know if you just want to close us out, and then probably we'll encourage everyone to come and submit for question of the week and see if they can get questions answered on Tuesday, Newsday next week. But
yeah, for sure, that'd be amazing.
Give us a quick rundown. What are you up to? What's happening? What do you want to shout out about?
Yeah, for sure. So the next few months are kind of crazy for me personally. I'm working on some really big videos. One that I can talk about is going to the VRA HQ in Finland and checking out their craziest of mixed reality stuff. I know that they've got some pretty decent announcements as well. So that's something I'm really pumped about. I'm planning on traveling around to a few different studios and doing in-depth documentary style videos on what led to them being where they are right now as well. So just lots of really high scale videos that I'm really excited to bring, higher scale than the traditional Tuesday Newsday, of course. And definitely pushing with TMG. I close out in the next week in terms of my investments. And then after that, it's pretty much building my team up and making things more efficient for myself. And I have a really amazing venue coming out pretty soon called Schism. It's going to be a really awesome like rave / like festival venue within VR chat, so people can all come in with live music and just have a great time. And there's some really cool lore, and I've been working on that project for about the past 8 months. So yeah, definitely. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed. Thank you so much for coming and submitting questions. I really appreciate everything, and I love you guys so much. The crazy part about influencer or content creators is that like I'm not really much without the people that are watching and supporting, and they're every step of the way. So you guys are like 90% of the fight for me. I appreciate it so much, endlessly. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, and we really appreciate your time. So everyone, go the last week of that release, go subscribe, do all that stuff as well, and then keep an eye out for the nominations and shortlist opening for Social Influence of the Year, and we'll see that. And thank you again, Thrill. Thank you very much for everyone else for your questions, even if there was a slight segue about a flying car in there somewhere. But hopefully we'll see you all next week when we've got a couple more last AMA sessions coming up. One with Game of the Year, which is with Demio, So we'll have them and the studio in to talk about some questions for that, and another one with HP to talk about their hardware of the year win as well. So keep an eye on those. And then, yeah, thank you very much. We'll see you guys soon. Thrill, thanks again.
For sure. Thank you.